it to your attention and letting you know what you were in for. But I will talk to the other members and see how many of them we have to juggle work schedules like everybody else, so see what we've got.
Well, another possibility is depending on how long a discussion on, say, the signs go, how's the 17th look for picking up the slack if we...
I can also ask them about that.
Yeah, I know you don't have a meeting scheduled that night, so...
The planning board does not have a meeting
Right.
scheduled that night. I'll have to
So
check
we might
with the
have to
other
overflow.
members. Yep.
I've,
By the way, on the signs, I should not take full credit for the signs. I would like to take, although they don't know it, I would like to thank the towns of Wellesley, Concord, Arlington, a tiny little bit of Hingham, and a tiny little bit of Norwood for the stuff that I cribbed from their sign bylaws. So.
How long is their bylaw?
Well, actually, Wellesley's is longer. I took a lot from Wellesley and I significantly cut it down. So, but Wellesley's has a lot more commercial. This is a lot of Wellesley, a lot of Concord. Hingham did not have as strict a bylaw as I was looking for. There was a little bit more generality. And Arlington, of course, is an entirely different situation, but they had some very good definitions that I cribbed from. So. Why reinvent the wheel if somebody else has something that works? So
you mentioned definitions. Here's a question for you.
Yes.
The Chapter 10,
Yes.
the zoning bylaw, begins with a section of definitions.
Yes.
18 of them, okay?
Yep.
And I noticed one of your articles is amending that section.
The sign
to
bylaw,
put in
among others.
a
Yep.
definition into that section.
Yep.
Your other articles have sections for definitions, but so is there a unifying theory here that we can touch on?
That is a problem of multiple authors. I would say that in general, in the work that I do when I'm not doing stuff for the town and when I'm reviewing other towns' bylaws, most other towns seem to put all of their definitions in one place, so I followed that practice. We as a town have sort of gone back and forth, which is why there are only 18 definitions. If I were to rewrite the bylaws tomorrow, which I'm not going to do because it takes a lot longer than one day, I would move every single definition into the Section 1 definitions. And the reason I would do that is to ensure, and I don't know that this is the case because I haven't done a study, but I would want to ensure that there are no conflicting definitions within the bylaw where one special permit section defines something one way and the other defines it another way. I have not done a study to see if that's the case, but I think that's where having it all in one section makes a big difference. I don't know if you want to talk to your experience.
Makes sense to me.
Oh, good.
I would wonder if would that be something that we would want to do? Take the ones that sort of don't amend Section 1 and change.
We should
them.
double check that with town council. I don't think that would be an outside of the scope change, but we should double check with town council that we can do that. So, and the other members may not be in agreement with that, so we would have to check with them. But over time, I would love to see all the definitions migrate to one place. I think it would shorten the remainder of the bylaw, and as I said, it would make sure that we were consistent as a town with all of our definitions.
So I'm trying to remember which of your articles is adding Section 13 to a Section 13, subsection 13 to one of major Section 3.
Section 3A.
So it might be the accessory dwelling units.
Yes.
But
Section 3.
anyway,
Yeah, and some of them
So-
we have left the subsections undefined because we weren't sure where they were. So
Where they would go.
Maybe put in later.
but Section 3 of the general of Chapter 10, the zoning
Yes.
bylaw, has currently 10 sections,
Yes.
at least as of 2009, which is what's on the website. So, and you're proposing a Section 13 for that. I was wondering, have 11 and 12 been put into that section, but I just can't see them because they came in between 2009 and currently?
Actually, they should be A, B, C, D, E at that point. And yes, there have been some that have come in since 2009. We also do not
Would explain the gap.
Yes, that would explain the gap. We also do not have a fully up-to-date, because that is a project that's been being worked on. And so we've been.
I was going to ask you when.
We're not holding back any secrets here.
Right.
We don't have anything that the rest of the town does not have. So I think we're in process of updating
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Is that where we are?
that's a project between the planning department and the town clerk that's ongoing of, I believe, I don't know if it was October or May of last year, there was an article to do a 2-volume
Yes,
zoning
I think
bylaw.
that was October.
That's something that we're still working with the town clerk on, to fully update that for the web and for everyone to read.
And ideally, the eventual goal is to have it set up in such a way on the web that it is easy to update automatically. But we are in that period of transitioning from paper to web.
So can you explain to me what the hang-up is in terms of getting I'm sure there have been a bunch of amendments that have been passed since 2009.
It would be time and capacity. The planning department, of course, has only relatively recently been pulled up to full capacity, and we
No.
have been dumping as much work as possible onto the.
No, I understand.
Yes,
but,
exactly,
But
but
things
that's what
get
we're working-
posted to the town website all the time.
Right.
Okay.
But it's
and
reordering because as Tim said, we changed it so that some of the sections of the existing bylaw are being pulled out and put into a volume 2. So it is pulling them out and doing that. It's not just a matter of throwing up what we have on the web now. There's quite a significant reorganization going on based on town meeting votes, and that does take time. So,
Okay. I mean, I find it frustrating when I'm trying to review a new amendment, a proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw, to go back to the zoning bylaw to compare it, and it's either not there, or I'm not sure if anything has changed in between what I'm looking at and
Well, we have to
what's
bring
being
the
proposed.
town report to our planning board meetings, so we have the zoning in front of us. So yes, we're working from multiple documents ourselves. We are looking forward to that being updated even more than everybody else in town is. So it's in process
No, I'm
and
sure it
going
would
as
be
fast as it can.
A
That's
nice
all I can
tool
tell
for
you.
you. Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even exist for you?
We have the 2009 is what we're working from,
Uh-huh.
and the various town reports that have the changed zoning in it.
Oh.
So, as I said, we don't have anything that the rest of the town does not have.
Yeah, because
So-
some of your articles, I mean, like the accessory dwelling unit.
There's an N, an O, an R.
Well-
Yes, presumably, I think there's an S as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Probably
nice to go back and look. Oh,
And as I said, you have a numbering system that I don't have, so I don't know exactly
Right.
what has been put in front of you.
okay, it was article, okay, bed and breakfast is the one that's going to be a new subsection 13, okay? And 11 and 12 aren't there.
Oh, that's because,
Okay.
no, section 3A is amended by the subsection 13, yes. So you have to be
So that
familiar.
is the use
So,
regulations
but 11
for
and,
the residence
11 and
districts.
12 in
Yeah.
that
3.
Yeah.
section aren't there.
Okay.
Okay. But, I mean, it's nice to be able to go back, because, for instance, the accessory dwelling unit, ADU, is that? there are a
ADU,
lot of
yes.
new acronyms here
That's
for
right.
us. But the ADU, I mean, can you characterize, I mean, aside from the improvement in clarity, the major change I got from the previous regulation is that this one is going to be, these are going to be good forever, this special permit, and you aren't going to have to tear down your kitchen if you sell the house.
Well, you
that
would
kind of
also
thing.
be allowed to put an extension on, which you're not allowed to do now. You would be allowed to create a unit in a currently existing secondary building. You would be allowed to, she left the rental in, right? You'd be allowed to
The rental is in there, but
rent it to
flagged,
others.
because that's something that
Yeah,
people-
exactly. Yeah, you'd be
So-
allowed to rent it to other people, which is not currently allowed. So there's actually quite a few changes
Quite a
from the.
bunch.
Yeah.
Is there a way that you can highlight in these articles that are replacing one set of regulations with a more modern and sensible set of regulations? You know,
Well, certainly that.
highlights, give us the highlights of what you think you've
That would be part of the
accommodated.
presentation, yes.
That might be helpful. I mean, your verbal presentation was great, but if you had a little handout saying that this is what we have accomplished with the accessory dwelling units, we have made it possible for people to do A, B, C, D, and F.
Yeah.
Then, which all makes sense. And, frankly, I don't know how, I mean, I think
I
the
think
bad law of the past was probably just ignored, as opposed to, or might have been, as opposed to being rigorously followed. So this is good to have this is great. This is all wonderful stuff, and probably about time. I applaud you on your work. It's really something to have incorporated all the surveys and everything into this. It's great. It really is.
The collective members of the planning board have put in a lot of work over the summer, so just.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if we're shortly going to have a rebellion on our hands, but nobody got a summer vacation from zoning this year. So I think a handout of the key items is an excellent idea, and I'll talk to the other members and obviously to Tim and Julie about setting that up.
We have a little something like that. I remember for the second forum we had.
We did. I think we could
highlighted
probably.
the top 5 issues.
Yeah, we could probably take those presentations and work it into a handout, maybe something that we could have at town meeting.
It's not going to be a heavy lift at all.
Yeah.
Most of which you've discussed tonight. Are there exclusions such as condominiums and private developments and town, units that have different bylaws than the town?
Oh, as far as homeowners associations or things like that? Those are separately governed. So if somebody comes into the planning board for a special permit application to do a multifamily or a mixed-use development that has condominiums in it, part of what we generally require to be attached to the special permit is we require that there be a condominium association. We give them certain rules, or homeowners association if it's a single-family development. We give them certain responsibilities for maintenance. In some cases, for example, there was one a couple of years ago where there was some land held in common for a single-family development, and so the homeowners association had certain responsibilities for maintenance. And then we generally require that they attach their bylaws to the special permit. So when the approved special permit is registered with the Registry of Deeds, that document goes with it.
So the things that all of these things, and I'm talking about, of course, the new 40Bs that are, will they all be subject to all of these rules?
So the 40Bs go under the Zoning Board of Appeals, rather than the Planning Board. They have jurisdiction over those. I would assume if they're granting a special permit for a 40B.
I mean, isn't
it's comprehensive
isn't the
permit.
point of the comprehensive permit that they don't have to follow?
They don't have to
zoning?
follow certain zoning. It's an interesting question about the lighting. The Board of Appeals could certainly ask them to follow the lighting and have them give a good reason why they couldn't, for example. But that's a different process, and it's governed in part by state law rather than local law. In fact, that's the point of it.
But homeowners association follows under your.
Any new special permit, so a homeowners association would be required to follow this, yes,
40B
absolutely.
is.
That's a separate thing. But I would think that the ZBA would be able to show this and say, hey, this is what we're looking for.
This is not one of the restrictive things that you need to be avoiding in a comprehensive permit.
And it's actually to their best interests in many ways. So, and the same thing with some of the signs as well. At the moment, because of our current regulations on signs in a residential district, so for example, we don't currently allow most signs in a residential district, which includes the businesses' signs. Those are all non-conforming. It includes if you have a historic home and you've got a historic little marker on your house. I'm really sorry, but that's
Breaking
actually
the law.
illegal. Yeah, you
You
are breaking the law.
It was given to me by the town of Milton.
So, exactly. So we've actually included a provision that allows that, but because we're having more of these multifamilies come in, and they're, of course, in residential areas, so there's language in here governing those signs as well, which doesn't currently exist. So, so we've tried to take into account a lot of the things that we've heard over the past few years. Yeah.
Lee Michael.
Emily, small suggested change to bed and breakfast.
Yep.
Number 2.
Let me pull out, I seem to have a lot of paper here. Yeah, yes.
Number 2, sub-bullet B. You have 2 sub-bullets in a row,
Ah,
lettered B. And the second letter B,
uh-huh.
read with me the underlined words. The sign may be illuminated by a light is a single point. I think you want to delete the words light is a.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I do. By a single point. Thank you. Typographical changes, always welcome.
Good job. You didn't catch the second B.
No, I didn't.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Geez, I'm not sure if we've covered everybody's questions on everything. I know we're going to get into it in more detail
Absolutely.
after the public hearing process.
I do invite you to September 10th. We'll be in this room. We went back and forth on where we should hold it, trying to gauge the amount of interest, and looking at the last 2 public forums, this room would easily hold all of the people who attended those forums. So if more come, we'll get a little cozy, but
Well,
we will be here. It will be
Patriots
televised.
opening night, so be prepared for people not to come. It's true.
Are you kidding me? Patriots versus the planning board? You know they want to be at the planning board.
I just,
Or
Well,
maybe they'll split screen it, and they'll put the planning board in the big screen,
That's right.
and then the
That's a
little
great
screen will be
plan.
the Patriots.
but Emily, you start at 7.
That's true.
The game starts at 8.
Well,
Move
we
quick.
are the preview for the Patriots. And you'll be
Uh,
so fascinated by the zoning that you won't even think about watching Tom Brady.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, and
I can hope.
certainly,
If, yeah.
if
Critique
anybody
the
has any
lighting.
questions between now and the next time we see you, we can certainly forward them to you.
Yes, Tim
And-
is collecting all questions,
Okay.
and that's actually true. So I neglected to mention, in addition to the other things that we did online, having the survey open, we've also had 2 public comment periods where people could go to our website and actually put in comments on the zoning right then and there. They can, of course, email them to Tim. The first one closed August 11th, and that's what led to the drafts that are in front of you today. The second one is open now, and it's closed September 9th. Did we do it?
Did we
8th or
decide?
9th. So
Let's peg that down.
let's do it, close September 8th, so we have time to print them out and see them before our hearing on the 10th. And so any comments that we receive will go into whatever changes we make on the public hearing. So I urge anybody listening, thank you for televising this, I urge anybody listening at home tonight to
It's
go
on
to
the
our
planning board
website.
website on townofmilton.org.
Yep. And
And is the survey still open for participation?
The survey is closed. You can read the results. I put together a document with all of the results on that. The survey was, I think, a smashing success. We got upwards of 330 full responses. It was a very long survey. That's one of the things that I think we might have learned.
life lessons from planning
But
initiatives.
more than 300 people responded to it, so,
Yeah.
and I think generally, as folks that are engaged in the town and interested in these sorts of issues, any feedback that you have for the planning board on how the planning board could reach out to people a little bit better to make it more convenient, easier, informative, to sort of interact on these issues, I think would be very much welcome.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are looking for comments all the time. If people know of organizations, newsletter lists, email lists, anything that they're comfortable sharing with us or saying, you know, please send this to so-and-so who will distribute it. We are looking for new ways of reaching out to people all the time. And we are evaluating after every outreach How do we reach people? Where do we reach people? Where are they hearing from? And trying to find new ways. I believe you're going to probably be going back to the farmer's market relatively soon. We've also been using Susan Galvin's extremely excellent email list for town meeting members. We regularly use that. I know not every town meeting member is on it, but they probably should be. She does not share the addresses with us. We give her the information and she sends it out to town meeting members, so there's no loss of confidentiality there for town meeting members, but it's a great way to find out not only what we're doing, she posts a lot of things on that list. So she's been a huge help in getting the word out. And of course, Milton Cable Access has been fantastic in taping all of these, so we greatly appreciate that.
Well, I hope all those efforts have brought you some greater participation. Can you tell us what the percentage of online survey participation was?
Well, it's hard because it's not an RSV, you know, we broadcast it out, so it's not like we've sent it to 1,000 people and we can say, you know, X% respond. It goes out, other people forward it.
Sorry,
so.
but of the 330, how much of that came through online participation?
Oh, that's all. The 330 is complete responses we got to the survey.
How many partial responses?
Something 420-something
So
partial responses.
Okay.
And so, I mean, we also had...
But you had some in person at the
yeah,
forum.
so the first forum we had almost 40 people showed. Participation in those forums kind of petered out a little bit over the summer. But, you know...
So the preponderance of the 330 was through online.
All of that was online. So
All
the
of that.
40's not, the 40 was in-person handwritten documents. The survey basically we handed it out and they circled their choices. It was a PowerPoint presentation. The online survey that Tim is referring to, that survey, 420 people went on it, 300 and something completed the whole thing. That's all online.
That's fabulous.
That's amazing.
Good percentage.
It's the way...
Because it was a pretty thorough survey. I mean, it was the same one we did at the forum, right?
Yes, it was exactly
Okay.
the same thing as the forum. So Tim just took it all, you know, I gave him the presentation and he took it all and put it online, so.
That's stunning.
There's
That's great.
several grains of salt. There's no... There was no... It was basically, we sent out a link, people responded. So there's no guarantee that every single one of those responses is a Milton resident. We found that a lot of, we can do analytics on the back end.
I
of survey
tell you, I'm
monkey.
not going to go fill out a survey for Newton,
And I think...
you know, or some other town. You
And I think-
know. I don't think you have to worry
I
about
say,
that.
I say grains of salt, not piles of salt, because
Yeah.
yes, it is a 15-minute survey. I can't imagine someone being so interested in skewing the results that they would go through that.
Yeah.
But we actually found on our analytics that whenever it was posted on Milton Neighbors, which is a very popular Facebook page, enormous spikes in participation in that survey. We did set it so that only one response per computer, so that, you know, prevented people, again, if you want to spend a day juicing the results of the survey from home, you wouldn't be able to do that. You'd have to go to separate computers.
Thank God, I've got 5 computers.
I don't think that happens, but I think the goal for the planning board was to sort of create a new set of data points, because the planning board has been very good at, you know, going out, people come to hearings, people, you know, from various neighborhood groups that are interested in things that are going on in the neighborhood. That feedback comes in, the planning board's been able to process it. They've been trying to figure out ways, okay, people that they're not always reaching. You know, and just the same way that, you know, if a neighbor comes out and says, you know, this is terrible, you know, that's one data point that they'll take seriously and consider, but there's other data points out there. There are people that don't show up to these meetings. There are people that have other views. So it's just creating a richer base of information to kind of craft these articles.
The basic question for us as we do this is, how do we reach the people that we haven't previously reached? How do we get out into the community and reach the people who don't come to planning board meetings, who don't participate in other community meetings because they've got other lives. They've got work, they've got kids, they've got elderly parents, they've got whatever it is that prevents them. How do you get them in to communicate? And is it an age thing? Is it an income factor? Is it some other socioeconomic thing? How do you figure out who the people are that you aren't reaching, and then how do you figure out how to bring them in? And that will always be a question in any process that's ever done. You will never solve that answer, because there's no way you can drag every single person in Milton and sit them down in a room and say, right, you're doing this right now. So how do you just keep building on that? We try different times of day, we try different locations, we try email and flyers and going out in person, and just how do you do that? It will always be something that we have to work on. So.
Well, I mean, I think you've made huge strides. I mean, you made it easy, okay, which is the number one thing. And I think you probably have in terms of a richer database, you went from 0
Right.
almost, to this, and that's huge. That's great.
And hopefully people get used to the idea that
Yeah,
this is something that will happen.
right. This is a part of what we do. It's where
Right,
we're
because
trying
you
to
want
go.
the zoning bylaws to reflect what people's values are in the community.
Absolutely, that is part of it.
So it's really terrific. Thank you.
I'll pass that to the other members. Yeah.
So, unless anybody has any other questions, we'll let Emily and Tim off the hook here. And, thanks for coming in, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Good luck
Yes.
with the public hearing process.
Thank you very
on
much.
September 10th, and anybody hasn't gotten that message.
And if we don't see you there, we'll see you back here on the 16th.
Right.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we have a couple of other things on the agenda. And so we only have one set of minutes, and I haven't edited it yet, so we won't be doing that. Our schedule, as you may gather, is going to be next week, the 9th. We have the Town Government Study Committee coming in to have another follow-up discussion on the article that they're submitting. A motion to expand the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5 members of the board. And I believe we may have the treasurer in to tell us about 2 articles that he has submitted for the rescinding and repurposing of bond funding. And you got those, that would be Articles 4 and 5 in the batch I sent you. And I think they're pretty straightforward, but and it's good news. There are resources out there I didn't know about. And it might have been nice for last year's capital planning committee to have a better handle on that. So this year's capital planning committee has more resources as a result, and we'll be asking about that. Tom Hurley was unable to come in on the 9th to talk to us about the Board of Selectmen articles, 1, 2, and 3, and then maybe we'll talk to him about the amplified sound as well. But I think he's going to have to come in on the 16th as well, which is why maybe we'll need the 17th for some overflow on the planning board articles. So, but we'll see how it goes. And shortly after the 17th, that weekend, we will have to get the warrant written with commentary. So, if you recall that you were on the zoning board subcommittee, you'll have some work to do that weekend, I think. And I know that Paul was on it, so there's an opportunity for someone to volunteer their literary talents for that. But I'll touch on the question of subcommittees maybe next time. I don't think there's going to be a lot of change. We lost basically 3 people. And if you like where you are, then great. If you want to make a change, we'll look at that too. And then the new guys will get all the lousiest appointments, right? That's the way it works. So in terms of writing comments, we really, it's only the zoning board, or perhaps anybody who want. Well, the town government study committee will probably help write a comment for that article. And it should be pretty quick. I do have some issues. I'm going to be talking to John Flynn, because if you have 45 pages of articles, and the way we've been doing it, you also have 45 pages of recommendations, unless our recommendation is to vote no on something, in which case those 18 pages or whatever they are don't get repeated. But that's just a burden on the printer and the cost to the town, so I'm going to be talking to them to see if there's any way that we can break new ground and save a little money and time there. That the recommendation be that the town vote for the article as written above, as opposed to as written below. So something like that.
One thing,
Darnell.
one thing, Ted, only if we make changes in our recommendation from the original
Right.
article, which will be then a reprint. But
Right.
there are cases where that's not happening.
Well, some towns only print the recommendations. As opposed, that's what you get in the town report. You get the recommendation only. You don't see that if there was a change between the article as submitted and the recommendation as voted. So, but there's got to be a better way than reprinting 18 pages of bylaw
Double print, yeah.
twice. So we're going to look at that. So I don't know if anybody took a look at the spreadsheet I sent out as a preliminary cut on the fiscal year 17 budget. That was a good exercise. We have a long way to go. I'm just getting final numbers in from last year so that we can get a better handle on what possible free cash might be, what possible local revenue for fiscal year 17 might be, based on our performance in fiscal year 15, and it looks pretty optimistic. Probably significant growth there in local revenue. So that'll be a factor, and and I'd left that flat on the spreadsheet I sent out to you. So that could be another $400,000. Free cash, you never know, but local revenue did pretty well. So, and that's an element of free cash. So we'll see. The good news, I want to just touch very quickly on a couple of things. I don't believe I've sent out the budget template that's going to be used, but I will do that. I reviewed that with Amy and Anne Marie the other day, and it will have a column for non-contingent budget and a column for a contingent budget. Basically, that's what you would like to have, and probably what is the bare bones that your department, is contractually obligated for. We also worked, Amy and I worked on, well, primarily Amy worked on it, and I've got to applaud her publicly because she put a ton of work into this. For a long time, her spreadsheets for, the basic town revenue and expenses have been in a completely different format than the warrant committees. Our spreadsheets that I inherited, were great in one way, except they didn't reflect the order of expenses in the warrant itself. So we were forever lumping some things together in one category of our spreadsheet, and they were lumped in different ways in in the warrant itself. So now Amy has developed a spreadsheet for expenses that reflects exactly the order of the articles in the warrant and the line items. And I intend to adopt this because it'll make it a lot easier for the warrant committee and the town accountant to agree on numbers, for starters. And everybody will, you know, instead of looking at two different formats, and so this is really terrific, and I'm really grateful to her for doing this. It was a ton of work, and I will send it out to you. And I just got it the other day, so you'll be able to see what that looks like, and it has stuff that we will develop as we go along, and it also has local revenue in it, forecasts for that, and then you can see how it was done. We sent that out last year, but now it's all in the same workbook, so it'll be really helpful as we go through it to make changes. So right now, there's not a whole lot in there, except for what we did last year, okay? And what we appropriated for 16, and 17 is a blank, okay? The stuff I sent to you has a guesstimate for 17. So, but I'm not gonna make any more changes to that format because I don't think it'll be very useful. I think we'll want to switch over. So anyway, I'm very grateful to her for that. It'll really help us out. And other than that, I don't think there's any other news. So I'm. Michael?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Hey, great. Thanks. See you all.